Yeah. So over these past few episodes, we have seen how beautiful and powerfully important wetlands are to the community and also to the animals that depend on wetlands for food and for homes. But even though the wetlands' importance is clear, they're still being bulldozed and covered by concrete. So, what can we do about that? Stemming from my love of design and visual art and photography, I decided to explore, along with the importance of wetlands on a whole, how visual communication can play a role in inspiring action around wetland conservation. And exploring this question with me is the manager of interpretive planning at the Houston Zoo, Melissa Mair.
Essentially, interpretive planning is sort of the collaborative process that we take here at the zoo to identify the messages we want to communicate with our audiences and determining the most effective means of sharing those stories. But thinking carefully about that. And, you know, we do a lot of studies and things, so we know that there are certain things that our guests are really interested in, right? Like they come here because they want to see the animals, they want to have a good time with their family, they have certain needs that need to be met even before we get into sort of the conservation messaging. And so understanding what they want and what they need and meeting them there, so then we can also kind of share some more information and build that relationship. So trying to find that sweet spot between what our guests want to know and what our staff wants guests to know and really capitalize on that.
There are several different ways in which Melissa and the Houston Zoo use visuals to help inspire action. Sometimes it's through hands-on interactions with zoo staff or volunteers. Sometimes it's with videos or artwork within the zoo. Sometimes it's through posters and signage. But with all forms of visual communication used to inspire action, tests are required.
You know, it's all good for us to identify the messages and identify the tools that we think are going to be most effective. But at the end of the day, we don't really know if they're going to be effective or not until we actually go out and test them. Yeah. So doing evaluation is a really key part of this. So we can figure out what in our messaging needs to be tweaked. Another thing, and you might find this more interesting because it's a little bit more applicable, is the fishing line recycling campaign that the zoo is leading. And they are doing like a whole research project and thinking about this. And so some of the things that's included in the recycling fishing line campaign is in people talking, facilitating, having activities, but then also a bunch of visual things, right? Yeah. So there are stickers that's sort of visually communicating. They have, I don't know, yeah, here we go. They have like a whole board talking about recycling and then pictures of fishermen who have committed to recycling their monofilament, and again, kind of showing how you can be one person but part of a larger effort. And so the visual of a sign like this is saying, hey, this is something that we're doing as a community. You can make a difference even just as one person. And it's one piece of a larger campaign effort.
Like with the fishing line signage out of the coast, it is very possible that if signage was designed around Houston that showed people creating wetlands, it would build a community desire to preserve and restore natural Texan wetlands. It could also be an aesthetic informational poster for people who are visiting Houston who take interest in our natural environments. My conversation with Melissa was long, informational, and incredibly enjoyable. But even though I wasn't able to share all of our conversation with you today, I hope that you were still able to take away a little bit more about how visual communication can help inspire action around conservation within our community. But before I close out season 1, here are 5 wetlands you can visit in and around the Houston area, and 2 things that you can do today to make an impact around wetland conservation. The 5 wetlands that I have visited and would recommend are Brazos Bend State Park, Memorial Park, Edith L. Moore Nature Sanctuary, and the 2 that are smaller but still really enjoyable to visit are the Texas Wetlands Exhibit at the Houston Zoo and the western side of Buffalo Bayou. And the 2 things you can do today to make an impact are planting some natural Texan plants in your backyard or in your neighborhood to invite back Texan wildlife, and supporting organizations that preserve and restore the Texas wetlands that still remain.